Sony just made a big PS Plus mistake. The next PS5 update is going to be great, and critics are loving God of War. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to PSReady, and as I just mentioned, critics are loving God of War. Yes, God of War Ragnarok is out in the wild. All the critics have it. I've talked to a few people who are playing it right now, which is crazy because the game doesn't even come out until November 9th, and I am super excited to check it out because everything we're hearing about it is that whether you're on PS4, PS4 Pro, or PS5, you're going to have a great experience with this game. I'm trying not to spoil it for myself, so I only read a few previews, but everything I've read just basically leads to people saying, yeah, this is more God of War with some pretty cool improvements to both the combat and just how everything flows in the game world, which is kind of exactly what I expected and exactly what I wanted. If this was going to be a PS5 exclusive game that was really going to shake the console up and be a game that was going to push that console to its limit, I would be expecting a lot more from it, but knowing that this is going to really be the PS4 swan song and it really needs to be able to run on that machine, well, I could see why it's being called a sort of safe God of War sequel. I'm kind of conflicted on this because I want this game to be a PS5 exclusive. I want this to be the first game that really pushes the PS5 to its limits, but it's also a game that started development in 2018. So it was always envisioned with the PS4 in mind. So it's like, I don't really think they're letting that console hold it back, which is a good thing. The main thing I'm excited about is that because I'm playing it on the PS5, I'll be able to get a locked 60 frames per second out of it. I've been playing through God of War 2018 on both my gaming PC and my PS5, and it's great at 60 frames per second. So if this came out and was locked to 30, I think I would notice the downgrade pretty immediately. And especially after playing Gotham Knights all weekend, I think I'm pretty much done with 30 frames per second games. Like, there are a few games I was able to stomach it with last year specifically. Guardians of the Galaxy was a game where I had to limit it to 30 FPS because it just wasn't gonna happen at 60. But other than that, I really just am not into the idea of playing games at that frame rate unless I'm on something like the Steam Deck. The PS5 is definitely strong enough to be pushing 60 FPS, and I'm glad Sony is carrying the torch forward with games like God of War. But the one big downside to review codes for this game going out so early is that spoilers are kind of leaking all over the internet. But unlike games like The Last of Us Part 2, where people were doing it maliciously just to be, this time around, it's literally a complete accident. So there's this feature on both the PS4 and PS5 where every time you get a trophy, it uploads a screenshot to the cloud. And you can also take that setting one step further by making it tweet out automatically that screenshot every time you get a trophy. So there's a reviewer who got the game early who didn't know that they had this feature turned on their PlayStation account. So every time they were popping a new trophy in God of War Ragnarok, it was automatically tweeting out a spoiler before they could even notice. Now, obviously, some trophies are more spoilers than others, but with Sony games, and pretty much any game in general, I guess, like achievements and trophies, every time you hit a big story beat, you usually get a trophy, and in that trophy's description will be the story beat you just did. So this was kind of like a really funny situation because everyone was immediately pissed off. They were like, why is everything leaking online? Like, why are people getting these codes that are leaking the game? But then they realized, yeah, it was just a complete accident. And if I was in this situation, I would be sweating bullets personally. I'd be like, I'm never going to get a game code again. I would hope that Sony kind of just explains to the person how to turn this feature off and doesn't blacklist them or anything like that, because from every account, this doesn't seem like a malicious thing and it's just a genuine accident, and they were able to catch it before spoiling anything super major. But now that those spoilers have gotten out there, there are some people who are going to spoil the game maliciously, so I would stay away from any tweet from like IGN or like a game reviewer or Kotaku or Polygon or any of these big sites that are tweeting about the game leading up to its release, because that is exactly where you're going to see people spoiling the game. Or even if your favorite YouTuber tweets about it, I would maybe not look at the replies to their tweets because yeah, you'll get some stuff spoiled from the entire game. Honestly, guys, I'm really happy with how this fall is turning out for games. Between Modern Warfare 2's campaign, which is literally one of the best Call of Duty campaigns in years, to God of War getting great preview impressions, and then we've got the Callisto Protocol right after that. I mean, how much more could I ask for, really? I've got a bunch of violent games coming out that are all in my favorite genres, and they're all seeming to be really good. But next up, we are in the week before Halloween, which is simultaneously like the peak of my annual happiness and also the beginning of my annual sadness, because Halloween is in literally 1 week, the day I'm filming this video. But because we are in the week of Halloween, we are getting a great horror game sale on the PlayStation Store, and I am literally the best and most equipped person to give you some recommendations. I will take that crown and and anyone can try and fight me for it and they will lose. So the first recommendation I have for you guys is Evil Dead the game. This is one of the best games I've played this year, which I cannot believe I'm saying, right? Like when this game was announced, I was like, I'm gonna be a huge fan of this. I know it. Evil Dead is like my second favorite horror franchise of all time. And then it really impressed me by the fact that it has extremely good graphics. It's a great twist on the Dead by Daylight / Left 4 Dead scenario because you can actually fight back, and it has extreme reverence and respect for the source material that it's pulled from. And it's on sale right now for $27. So that one is a guaranteed pickup. The Ultimate Edition of Dead by Daylight is on sale for $41. I don't know exactly how much of the DLC it comes with, but the DLC can add up pretty quick. These sales are when I like to pick up the DLC from throughout the year for Dead by Daylight because I don't know if you guys noticed, but they release new DLC like every couple months. All of the DLC individually is on sale, and you can also get the Ultimate Edition of the game for $41. This is a game where I have like a love-hate relationship with it. I like a lot of the work they're doing behind the scenes to make it look and run better over time, and all the content they add is great. It just gets a little boring after a while for me to constantly be running away from the killers, but it's on sale for 41 bucks, which is a pretty good deal. So if you pick up that Ultimate Edition for 41 bucks, you essentially get pretty much every killer that's an original killer to the game or an original DLC pack to the game, not licensed like the Resident Evil stuff or the Silent Hill stuff or, you know, the movie stuff like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Halloween. So what I usually do is I just stack them all up and buy them all at once, and then when I play the game for a little bit, I have everything unlocked. So that is a pretty good game to pick up if you're looking for an asymmetrical online multiplayer game. Next up, you can spend just $22 and get Resident Evil 2 and 3 Remake, which are two of my favorite games from the past few years. They just got PS5 versions that are free upgrades, so you're gonna get the PS5 versions of these games, but you can also get the PS4 versions for this price if you're still on that console. 3 is a little more actiony, a little bit shorter. 2 is essentially like a perfect survival horror video game, and I literally cannot recommend these games enough. I'd be shocked if a lot of you don't already have them. Microsoft's latest PS5 exclusive Ghostwire Tokyo is at its lowest price yet of around $40. I played through this game and I thought it was pretty good. It honestly disappointed me a little bit after loving The Evil Within and The Evil Within 2 so much and how violent and gory they were. They felt like they were kind of advancing the whole Resident Evil 4 style game before we got all these awesome remakes in Resident Evil 7. And I think what kind of holds it back is that it's just like extremely easy. It has auto lock on. You're always more powerful than the enemies, but they look really cool. It never really manages to be scary, but it's a cool sort of horror inspired version of Japan that I think is worth trying out, especially at that price. And then speaking of The Evil Within 2, it's on sale right now for $5.99. This is my like you must buy this game pick of this entire list. If you're someone who's really into the first person aspect of Resident Evil 7 and Village, they added it for free in The Evil Within 2, and it actually works pretty well. And I think it works well because it pulls you out of first person for cutscenes. So you see Sebastian and the characters he's talking to in third person when you're talking to other people, but when you're playing the game, it's in first person, and it works incredibly well in my experience. And then finally, I wanted to pick an indie game. You should definitely grab Carrion for $9.99. It's a Metroidvania where you essentially play as the Blob, but a little bit gorier. You escape this facility where you were captured and I guess grown in a lab, and you get to kill all these different like scientists and creatures and people throughout the game. It actually has a pretty good story. It's one of the more memorable games I've played in a long time. I played it on the Nintendo Switch, but I think it would be just fine on the PlayStation 5. So if you're looking for a few games or just one to play in the next week before Halloween, Carrion's a great one to go to, and Evil Dead gets my second pick because those are two of my favorite horror games I've played in a really long time. And next we gotta talk about PS Plus because Sony's made a pretty controversial change that seems small on the surface, but is actually pretty irritating. So for a while now here in the US, you were able to see if a game had an expiration date for when it's supposed to leave PS Plus. You could see that actual date, so you would know exactly how long you had to play a game that was available on PS Plus Extra or Premium's library. And while Sony is leaving that date in place in other countries, here in the United States, they have just quietly removed that expiration date from PS Plus. And a lot of people initially assumed that this was a good thing. They were saying, oh, if it's on PS Plus Extra or Premium's library, that just means it'll be on there forever because there's no expiration date. But sadly, what it really means is that it's going to be on there for an undefined amount of time. So Sony obviously wants you to buy buy your subscription and play these games while they're available and rush to play them. And I know that's a cynical way of looking at it, but they screwed up by having this feature included in the first place, because it's something that people never really would have thought about if it wasn't there at all. But now the fact that it was actually there and they took it away, it's kind of like an unforced error on Sony's part. And I'm honestly curious why they even put aside the resources and time to mess with a feature like this, right? We still have issues getting the PS5 out in the wild. We have a brand new PS5 game coming out with God of War Ragnarok really soon. You'd think they want all hands on deck working on the marketing for that game and making sure it's basically ready to go at launch. But no, they're screwing around with the PlayStation Store and taking away features that are genuinely useful, and it's kind of frustrating. So really the only indication you have right now if a game is going to leave this service is that it's in the like last chance to play tab over on the PlayStation Store. So if you go into the extra library of games, there's a last chance to play tab, and there you can find games like Res Infinite. But before, you would have been able to see exactly how long you had to play it. But now Sony's putting the FOMO on you and making you say, oh shoot, this game could be leaving in the next couple months or so. I should just play it right now. And I know it seems like such a small thing on the surface, but the last thing I need to feel when I'm playing video games is anxiety, because usually like I'm playing video games at the end of my day to relax. I'm trying to just forget about all the dumb, stupid stuff I had to deal with throughout the day. And then seeing that a game I had on my list for maybe when I finish Gotham Knights or the Modern Warfare 2 campaign is going to be leaving PS Plus soon at an unspecified time, that's kind of irritating and a little frustrating. Now, of course, the silver lining here is that this could all be a bug. We've seen stuff like this happen in the past with Sony, where a lot of controversy gets drummed up because Sony is the most popular. They've got the PS5, which is the most popular console. And if you can write about anything negative with Sony, people are going to click on it and talk about it on Twitter and get all riled up about it. And then a couple days later, you get a confirmation that says, oh, that was just a bug and we're changing it right back. And then the controversy continues because people are like, oh, they're saying it was a bug, but they're just quietly responding to the backlash that they didn't expect when they were making this small move. So yeah, either way, while this could be a bug, I think it's worth bringing up because I don't want Sony to say, it's a bug we don't have to fix because no one's complaining about it. Because knowing when these games are going to leave the service is a super important feature. And finally, we have to talk about Discord on PlayStation, because this is the next big update we are going to get on the console, and I am personally very excited for it. I recently picked up my extra copy of The Witch Queen on the PlayStation 5, so I've been playing a lot more Destiny 2 there, and one big issue I've run into playing that, and now Fortnitemares, because I did end up picking up the Ash skin, is that it's annoying to use the PlayStation chat when all of my friends are on Discord. And it's even more annoying knowing that Ray, that jerk, can just boot up his Xbox Series X and use Discord like anyone else on the PC. It is a little bit worse. You have to already be in a chat or whatever and connected to your phone, but still, my point stands. Ray can use Discord on his Xbox Series X, and I can't use it on my PS5, which is like another twist of the knife when you consider that Sony just made a huge investment into Discord and owns a much bigger portion of them than Microsoft does, because as far as I'm aware, Microsoft doesn't own a single cent of Discord. But the cool thing is, while it looks like when we first get Discord support, which should be happening pretty soon, it's going to behave exactly like it does on the Xbox Series X, where you're going to go on your phone and connect your Discord account to your PlayStation account. And if you're already in a chat, you can kind of move it over to your PS5. Starting next year, around March 2023, according to Tom Henderson, we are going to get the full Discord app on the PS5, and it's going to have full integration, effectively replacing the voice chat feature that we already have on the PlayStation 5. And honestly, there's not a whole lot wrong with the native voice chat on the PlayStation 5. I think it's pretty admirable. It works just fine. When I do use it while I'm playing Fortnite with my friend Craig, I don't really have a ton of issues with it, but you know, it would just be a whole lot better to have one service like Discord where I can move between my phone, my PC, and my PlayStation 5. Because even though it works pretty well on the PS app, it's just better only using one app for all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, I also really enjoy the revamped Steam chat because it has awesome emojis from pretty much every game you can imagine, but I don't really use it because Discord is just what everyone else is already using.